Joining me now, Alexi McCammon, host of the podcast In Sync and an MSNBC political analyst, along with Axios political reporter Steph Kite. Welcome. Good to see you both. So, Alexi, we're seeing Harris narrowly leading in the battleground states, while the race is very tight. Does the fact that she is ahead in all of them, with Pennsylvania and Nevada both outside the margin of error, does it indicate good things to her campaign about the trajectory, at least?
Yeah, Alex, thanks for having me on, and I'm so happy to be on with you and Steph. Obviously, the polls are getting tighter and showing a closer race, but I think they're showing us a lot more, like that Democrats are on offense, not on defense necessarily. It's not just Harris who is performing well against Trump. If you look at the important Senate races in these battleground states, you'll see Democratic candidates overperforming their Republican challengers. And so I think what we're seeing is not just across the board the race is tightening, but Harris is closing the gap. Down ballot Democrats are closing the gap. And also, of course, Donald Trump is trying to keep his lead on the economy, but Harris has closed that gap, too.
Yeah. So, Steph, ahead of Harris's remarks at the border yesterday, you had the scoop that she would announce stricter asylum policies. It's an effort to fight back against claims that she and Biden have been too lenient on the border. But does she risk alienating voters on the left?
I mean, that is certainly a risk, but we've seen both Harris and President Biden move in the direction of embracing this tougher image on the border. We've seen it over and over again, not only in the policies they're rolling out, but also the language that they use on the campaign trail, the way they talk about immigration. We've seen Harris in particular really embrace, her past as a prosecutor, saying she's going to prosecute people who illegally come across the border. That's part of her promises to really crack down on illegal immigration coming across the U.S.-Mexico border. And it's pretty remarkable to see how far she's come, especially when you go back and you watch the clips from 2019, when she was in favor of decriminalizing illegal border crossings, when she was much more sympathetic to, focusing on getting people pathways to citizenship. It's very clear they see this as a vulnerability and something that they need to respond to. And, you saw that especially yesterday and hearing the way she was talking about the border issue and even the decision to go and visit it herself.
Yeah. Jake was just referencing the Gen Z vote, Alexi. Young voters could also play a pretty big role here. We've got nearly 42 million Gen Zers who are going to be eligible to vote. That includes nearly 8 million in the 7 critical battleground states. And there's a new poll of 18 to 29-year-olds. It's up by the Harvard Kennedy School, which found Harris with a 31-point edge over Trump. Now, that's not entirely surprising, but what is notable? 74% of young Democrats say they will definitely vote. Compare that with 60% of young Republicans. So what do you make of the enthusiasm gap?
It's so fascinating. What a change from when Joe Biden was still running for re-election. I mean, I don't think Democrats would have the influencers, flacking for Biden in the way that they are for Harris. I don't think we would see this big of an enthusiasm gap without Harris. She's really given new life to the Democratic Party and to their base voters, frankly, who they need to turn out and to show up, even and especially if it is their first time voting. And what's really interesting, Alex, is that Democratic operatives and some pollsters even say that they think the youth vote has been underpolled so far. They think that there is some sort of constituency of young voters who are new Harris voters that aren't yet being captured in polling, basically suggesting she could be doing even better against Trump nationally than we're seeing now.
What's interesting, Steph, Democrats are pushing for greater voting access on college campuses. What effect could that have, especially in swing states?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the polls, when you're looking at every single poll in these battleground states being within the margin of error, you realize that turning out any particular favorable group of voters could make or break the entire election. So it makes sense for Democrats to be focused on college campuses, targeting groups of voters who have historically not had very high voting turnout rates compared to other age groups. And so those are the kinds of voters that could make or break the election come November. And one one thing that's interesting in just my conversations with sources watching the polls is that it's so close. You're hearing from both sides who are able to take that data and spin it into what they view as a positive way forward. Even I've been hearing from Republicans who point out that even though Harris has had, a little bit of an edge over Trump in some of these battleground states, that they compare Trump's polling this year to polling in 2016, and they see improvement there. So Republicans still see a path forward, even as Trump is down, a couple points in most of these polls.
So here's something coming at you, Alexei, because Trump is trying to raise money any way he can. He's now selling a commemorative coin costing $100. His wife Melania now selling a pendant costing $600. And then there are the watches. Most cost $500, but there's a gold model that costs a whopping $100,000. Where is this money even going? Does it go to the campaign or does it go to Trump personally?
I think we all know where any money that gets into Trump's orbit ultimately ends up, which is benefiting himself in some way. Obviously, he still has legal fees to pay off and will face more legal challenges starting in the new year, no matter what happens in this election. But it's just another classic Trump grift. I mean, nothing screams I'm broke more than selling and hawking sneakers, Bibles, gold watches, coins, getting back into Bitcoin and NFT. I mean, I feel like he's trying to set himself up maybe for a post-election loss and open up some business avenues that way.
Last hour suggested maybe HSN, Home Shopping Network. Anyway, Steph, let's look at the rules for the vice presidential debate on Tuesday between Governor Tim Walz and Senator J.D. Vance. They are similar to the presidential debates that we saw, but instead of microphones completely muted when it's not the candidate's turn to speak, the rules state, quote, CBS News reserves the right to turn off candidates' microphones. So as you look at Walz and Vance's communication styles, what do you expect to happen if mics stay turned on as the other candidate speaks?
It will be fascinating to see how this plays out, especially comparing kind of the two very different, experiences we've seen between the two VP picks. Vance had a pretty difficult beginning after Trump named him his VP choice. We've heard reporting that Republicans were not sure he was the right choice. Meanwhile, Walz has been received with a lot of fanfare, a lot of support. I know one thing that we're definitely going to be hearing about from the two of them is talking about, kind of their military experience. We can expect barbs there. What I'm curious about is whether Walz's kind of likable, chill personality still works in a debate format, or whether we see Senator Vance, come forward a little bit more aggressively, and if that works to his favor.
Okay. Last to you, Alexei, what are you expecting on Tuesday night at the debate?
I mean, obviously, Governor Walz doesn't have to play cleanup as much as Vance will have to. So that's certainly going to help him. And, something fascinating the polls has found is that Walz has been overperforming with men, with male voters compared to J.D. Vance. Obviously, we know how he's tried to paint this picture of himself as some masculine candidate alongside Trump. So to Steph's point, we'll be very curious to see whether and how he almost tries to bully Walz on the stage or sort of take up more space than him in that way to be intimidating or masculine in his view.
Okay, I guess we'll see. Alexei and Steph, it's good to see you both. Come see me again. I like this combination.